Well, massive strike set to begin today, crippling mass transport and airports in one of the biggest walkouts in decades as Europe's largest economy reels from soaring inflation. In the hours running up to the strike, both sides dug in their heels, with union bosses warning that considerable pay hikes were a matter of survival for thousands of workers and management, calling demands and the resulting action completely excessive. Twitter taking legal action to prevent a potential damaging loss of its source code that underpins its service after parts of it and other software were posted online. The social media company acted late Friday to have the code removed from GitHub, which is a repository widely used in the software world to publish open source code for anyone to use and modify. It also sought a subpoena that would force GitHub to reveal anything it knew about the identity of the person who disclosed the code. For more on these headlines, we cross over to London, where we're joined by Arise business analyst Bode Ososanmi. Good morning, Bode. Thanks for joining us. What else do we know about this First Citizens SVB deal?
For having me on the show. Indeed, the consolidation in the U.S. banking sector is progressing as many had expected. The regulator had transferred SVB deposits and assets into a new bridge bank to protect depositors of the failed lender. And with this acquisition of First Citizens, one of the biggest buyers of troubled banks in recent years, they're taking all 119 billion of deposits at SVB, and of course they're acquiring other assets, about $72 billion of Silicon Valley Bank assets at a discount of about $16.5 billion. But they're still leaving about $90 billion in other assets which remain in receivership for disposition by the FDC. The deal was, of course, after last week's takeover of Signature Bank by Flagstone. My observation, of course, is this is what we expect. Markets are going to be calmed by this, and we've already seen many of the players. FRC, for example, First Republic Bank is up about 25% in pre-markets. They closed down 1.36% before that was last day of trading last week. Deutsche Bank is up 5.15%. Barclays Bank is up 2.46%. So there is a bit of calming. HSBC is up 0.88%. But you remember what happened in 2008 when bank shares went down? People went and put money into these shares in the hope that they would go up because they look like very attractive margins. If you look at where the prices are, FRC, for example, is now at about $12. This was $120 a share as at the 1st of March. So many, of course, are going to be looking at these banks and saying, let's put our money in it. And you know what happened in 2008? Many lost everything they had. So this situation is presenting, of course, a lot of good bets, which may turn out not so good, depending on how things evolve.
And what are your thoughts on the Sinopec results?
Well, my sense is what's going on in Sinopec, of course, is a reflection of what we saw in the markets last year. We had COVID, which, of course, was a huge issue, even though prices were firm. Demand was somewhat depressed most of the year, although towards the end of the year, it got better. And I think Sinopec, the results just demonstrate the balance between, or the trade-off between higher prices and the lower demand, which we saw last year. But I think the most important thing is that they see recovery of demand for petroleum and petrochemical products, and they see that driving their growth in a stable manner. Oil prices have been range-bound this year so far. Brent on average $70 to $80, moving up and down with other risk assets, with concerns over turmoil in the banking sector and geopolitical tensions amid all the improving demand from China. So yes, it wasn't such a good performance, but the outlook certainly is much better.
Earlier in the year, we said China was set for a firm rebound. So what happened as we see these numbers of industrial profits falling?
Well, yes, indeed. Consumer spending returned to growth in the 2-month period. That's January, February. Industrial output also rose 2.4%. But export demand didn't do so well. Costs are still stubbornly high. And the property crisis was still threatening recovery, despite the uptick in industrial output. The car sector particularly was worrisome in terms of performance because of all the competition in that sector and the difficulty in passing higher prices and the price wars going on. So in January to February, foreign firms posted a 35.7% decline in profits. Private sector firms saw their profits down 19.9%, and profits sank for 28 of 41 major industrial sectors. The computer, telecom, and other electronic equipment manufacturing industry reported the heftiest fall. That's about 77.1. Already we know that Beijing is looking at 5% GDP growth this year, which the many say they may even struggle. But it's still early to say, but so far, the rebound that we're seeing in 2023 is being dragged by several other headwinds, and I think we'll wait and see how the first quarter GDP numbers look like.
Strikes, France, also Germany. Could we see, serious implications on the economies of these respective nations?
Well, it depends on, of course, how long these strikes go for. The consumer prices, as you remember, rose in February, up 9.3%, and obviously, prices have not gone up. That is, wages have not gone up that much. And the pressure on people is there. And of course, in France, this isn't the right time to be tweaking the pension policy. So all these are issues, but fiscal space for governments are also under strain, just as higher food and energy prices are making it difficult for people. And that is driving this toxic environment. In Germany, I understand we're seeing the largest walkouts that we've ever seen in decades. Two of their largest unions, the Bode union, which speaks for about 2.5 million employees, and EVG, negotiating on behalf of 230,000 employees, the railway operator Deutsche Bahn and Boyce companies. And I think what there is some good news. For example, we got the IFO Business Climate Indicator. It increased to 93.3 in March of 2023. That's the highest since February of 2022, from 91.1 in February. However, despite all this, improving climate, higher wages for transport workers could result in higher fares, taxes to make up the difference, and that could result, of course, in more challenges. So it's still too early to comment on the impact. It depends on what is agreed and how long strikes will last.
Arise business analyst Bode Ososanmi. Bode, thank you so much for taking us through the headlines. We appreciate your insights as always.